Is there a path that you see?
So I'm not sure, but here's the reason I think there might be a glimmer of hope. And if you ask me what's different about this shutdown than the others that has caused this one to go on so long, if you ask me, it's the complete intransigence of Nancy Pelosi. After Democrats have voted for $1.6 billion of wall construction in an appropriation bill in the Senate just weeks ago, after they voted for $25 billion of border security a year ago, $44 billion some years before that, after the last 4 consecutive presidents have added a few miles at least to the 300-odd miles that we have now. Suddenly, Donald Trump is the only president who cannot build 1 inch of additional border security, despite the fact that the Customs and Border Patrol folks have asked for some segments of expansion of the wall. So what's the way out? There are now some Democrats who I have seen on national cable TV interviews suggesting that they themselves could support some amount of money for border construction, not the zero.
But the question is whether the president is willing to. The president's also walked out on $1 billion, $1.5 billion, or whatever it is, too.
Wait a minute. Nancy Pelosi has never put one dime on the table. I don't think the president is going to negotiate against himself. But I am very confident that Republicans in the Senate and the president are not stuck on one single absolute number and no alternative. We're open to negotiating. I certainly am. On the amount, on the timing, on exactly
Senator,
how much.
Would there be any effort by yourself or other Republicans to say, let's open the government and then have this conversation?
So the president asked Speaker Pelosi, according to him, and she's never refuted this account of the conversation, he asked her, if we reopen the government, will you then be open to considering some funding for the wall? And she said no.
Hey, Senator,
so how do you accomplish this?
Let's get in the real world, though, Senator. If you were Nancy Pelosi and you knew that the president had said you can call it the Trump shutdown, and if you didn't see any PR damage accruing to you, she has no motivation. Now, I don't want to be cynical because, giving people paychecks and the people that she cares about so much that are out of work. I mean, that might be motivation for her to come. But politically, she has no reason to come to the table, and neither would you probably if you were her.
Except, Joe, it's a fair point. No question. There's a lot of that motivation going on here. But let's look at how previous situations like this have been resolved. What has happened? Hey, Mitch McConnell was in the position that Nancy Pelosi is in today. This isn't the first time we've had a dispute. And what do the parties usually do? They seek to achieve something they couldn't get under ordinary circumstances. President Trump wants some money for a wall. Is there nothing at all in the universe that Nancy Pelosi would like to achieve through these negotiations? Everybody knows there has to be some kind of compromise.
Twisting in the wind, though. She loves it. He's twisting in the wind.
And so, right.
Off your head before you know you're bleeding, her daughter
So the
said.
opportunity to have a humiliating capitulation by the president is more important to her than any of the innumerable things she could be negotiating for.
So now
that
we
speaks volumes about the nature of this problem.
Right. Now we understand the real world, though.
But I think I see some Democrats in the House
do too.
starting to separate a little bit from that unreasonable position.
But on the flip side, do you also see Republicans who you think are willing to?
Look, we talk every day. We are willing. We do not. Hey, I'm not going to throw out a number here and negotiate against the president's position, but I know that there is flexibility here. As for timing, as for dollar amounts, there's lots that could be negotiable if we had someone willing to negotiate.
What do you think of some of the numbers that have been put out in terms of the economic damage that this is doing? There will be a point at which the economic damage, by the way, is far bigger than the $5 billion figure that this wall would ever cost.
I want to drill down on what that really looks like. I mean, obviously, all of the folks waiting for their pay, and by the way, I'm supporting actually paying now the folks who are required to show up for work. I mean, some of those folks do dangerous work, like prison guards and Secret Service agents. But the point is,
if you're prepared to do that, then why wouldn't you just reopen the government, though?
Because I don't think we get a solution. And I'd like to get this resolved now. I'd like to get this resolved at this, and the resolution is obvious. As I say, some kind of compromise, we settle somewhere in the middle, and I think people are starting to get to the point where they'll consider that.
I just have to say, we keep waiting for the pain point, for it to get to the point where there's so much pressure on elected officials to not have these people showing up for jobs and not getting a paycheck. I can't believe we haven't hit that point yet. We spoke earlier with Shelley Moore Capito, and she said she doesn't see any agreement, at least this week. So you're going to be reading about this through this weekend. Isn't there a point where people say, enough already?
Yeah.
You've got to come to some
there
solution.
Is.
You better step down.
Yeah, there is. And there is. And there's some point at which the intransigence of a single party will not continue to prevent this. I don't know exactly when we reach that moment. We don't appear to be there this morning. But as I said before, I do think I'm seeing some willingness on the part of some Democrats to at least negotiate.
How concerned are you about the economic impact?
I doubt that it's very large, Andrew, but I want to drill down into the numbers and the analysis and understand what the mechanism is by which people are thinking that's a significant number. You know, it's a very, very small sliver of the government that's actually not functioning right now. That has repercussions, though, right? It has repercussions
what do you tell those people,
the private sector.
What do you tell the people who've decided to take jobs, to work for the government, the commitment that the government has made to them and to their families?
It's maddeningly frustrating. It's painful for many of them, right? Obviously, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you don't have a savings reserve to get you through this, then it's very, very problematic. And that's why I've supported Ron Johnson's bill for at least those who are actually required to show up and work, for goodness sakes. Well, you know, we could at least take care of the problem for them. But, you know, you need two sides willing to negotiate.
Senator, on that point, just in terms of relief for the people who are showing up for work and not getting paid, I read a report this morning that more federal employees are actually tapping into their 401k plans, their retirement savings plans, and being forced to take emergency withdrawals from that so that they can pay their bills. They're going to take a tax hit for that because you are pretty stiffly penalized when you tap into your 401k.
Right.
Would there be any thought on Capitol Hill of trying to pass some legislation that would offer them relief if you were a federal employee who had to tap into your savings for that?
Tax cut?
Look,
No,
I get exactly what you're saying. I think that's a thoughtful idea. We ought to consider it. I think we should seriously consider it.